I'll just, great, cool, okay. So yeah, so this is the main Snowflake interface. Feel free to jump in if you have any questions, but I'll start kind of where you started here. So in the upper right-hand corner, there are, this is your switch role preference. And so by default, you'll see your username and then the role that you're currently using. You can alter, so you can alter the behavior of like what your default role is, which I definitely recommend. So if you search alter user Snowflake, you can change your default role. And you probably said you probably want this to be product manager, I think, because the way we do permissioning is that by default, everybody gets their own user role, which is basically identical to their username. So you'll be a member of like public, but also S-ready, but you're also a member of the product manager role. And I think by default it puts you in public whenever you join, which is probably annoying. So you can do, so you could type alter user S-ready set default role equal to S-ready. I don't know what the exact quotation is. You should be able to run that as yourself, and that would change your default role so that every time you log in, that's what it's set as.
Okay.
So what's a little bit confusing is that you can also have these worksheets where you can actually scope your roles differently depending on what you have. So like I'm super user, I'm sysadmin, and I can basically jump to any role that I want to. But when you're in a one of these worksheet tabs here, you can actually come into this context area and select a different role to basically to query the database as. So oftentimes what I'll do when I'm testing, like, hey, have I permissioned people correctly, I can come over here, select the product manager role, and actually see what you see. And so on the left side here are all the database objects. We have databases at the top, schemas, and then within a schema there's tables and views. And you can click on these and expand them and see all the tables and views. You can also specify your warehouse. So it looks like you have access to, or excuse me, the product manager role has access to analyst extra small, reporting, and analyst extra large. Generally use the extra small because it's like, they're EC2 instances essentially. So if you start up the XL one, it just costs like 8 times as much as the next small one. But if you're querying like snowplow data, like you'll need the big one probably.
Okay.
And then this is like, so from here, you can actually go ahead and start querying data because you have your role, you have your data warehouse. You can come here, let's say you wanted to query the date details table. You can actually come over here and double click, and it's going to populate the database, the schema, and the table. When you don't have a database or a schema selected, you have to specify it in your query. So let's say I just did select star from date details. It's going to say it does not exist. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm in the analytics schema. So you can do that. And it's going to say, well, I don't know what database that you want it from. So you have to be overly verbose here to get what you want. But you could come in here and select analytics and then select whatever schema you want by default. And then my original query here would work because it like knows the context.
Right. Okay.
And you'll notice too the difference. Like Snowflake has, by default, when you double click, it does like the full quoting. But in general, you can just reference a table without quotes and in lowercase, and it works just fine. So let me actually switch to your role at the top level because you'll see different things, I think, up top. Yeah, so this is the view you would see, I think. So you could come over to the database view and you'll see the 3 main databases that we have. So raw is where all of the raw data is going. Analytics is where dbt writes to after all the transformations. And then Snowflake is the built-in one that Snowflake manages and like where all the query history and metadata is written to. And you can click in here and see like tables and views and schemas and all that fun stuff that you have access to. I don't often come to this view just because it's slow and less useful than the other view, I think. But if you need to look up like how big is this table, you can do that. But honestly, you can also do that from this view. If you hover over it, says it's probably pretty small, but the little pop-up says number of rows and the size as well.
Sure.
And then it looks like you do have access to the history. This is probably automatically filtered by roles that you actually have permission on. So you'll probably only be able to see product manager queries if I understand how permissioning works. Maybe not.
You see mine up there right now, that the alter the default roles.
Yeah, nice.
Just run that. Okay.
Yeah, that looks like it worked. Sweet. This may be showing more just because I'm logged in. I don't know what you actually see on the history tab.
Let me see. I just see what I ran.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So if you're doing any automated, if you're like connecting with DBT or you've got like other scripts running, I guess that's a good way to check it. But this is how I can check on things. The nice thing about this, so let's look at a more complicated query. You can come in here and look at the query profile. Sorry, so let me go back to just double check. So on any of these queries, it has a unique GUID for the query identifier. You can click on that. It'll take you to this page which shows the details, how long it took to run, all that fun stuff. But then there's a query profile where you can see like, hey, what's slow in my query? And so 98% of this query is a table scan, and then it is a filter and a sort, and here's the result. So on more complicated queries, it's pretty nice. And there's more
it's like the plan, right? The query plan, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep. Shares and data exchange, you don't need to worry about. We don't do anything with that. Warehouses, this is just the compute instances that are used to actually query the data. That's one of the nice things about Snowflake. It is a usage-based model. So whenever these warehouses are on, it's being charged at a fairly low rate, especially for the extra small ones. I don't think it. Oh yeah, you don't have privileges to monitor the warehouse. That's fine. We do have a Periscope dashboard, which it's Snowflake spend, I think, which you can see like approximately how much money we're spending on different warehouses. But yeah, so they will automatically suspend, so you don't really have to worry about that. You should just feel comfortable using the excess at any time and not really worry about turning it on or off. It should kind of automatically happen. And I think that's the main thing. Yeah, you get your results down here. You can download them here. If it's small enough, you can just copy it straight to the clipboard. Trying to think. Very soon, I know they will be. Snowflake bought Numeracy, which is like a really nice UI for querying data, which should make this video deprecated, but it should make the UI like a lot nicer with autocomplete and things like that. That's one of the frustrating things about this setup currently is there's no autocomplete, but so they'll have like nice features where you can kind of scroll through, select things. They'll give you like small charts and stuff. So I've been talking with our sales rep, and hopefully that'll be out this month. Yeah, what else can I?
I had a question about that. Maybe you spoke about it, but the analyst extra small, extra large, and there was one for reporting. What was that for?
That one, like everybody has access to that. That's the one that Periscope primarily uses. Ideally, you wouldn't be using that one, I think, but it's not a big deal. We try to scope the warehouses kind of to function, and so most of the Periscope queries run through reporting. It is an extra small one, but I would just stick with the analyst ones. So it's possible.
But if the
go ahead.
if the Periscope report is hitting snowplow data, right? Wouldn't that require the extra large?
So we've had these discussions. The problem is that if we switch to the extra large for Periscope, every single query for everything is going to be run on that.
Okay. Yeah.
Most of the, and so that's we floated that idea of like, okay, these queries are running long, like we can bump up the warehouse size. Generally though, I think we want to try and optimize the data underneath and then like work with one of the analysts to better, because a lot of the times it's just like either a bad query or it's like a very exploratory kind of query. And in those cases, I'd almost recommend to the person like, hey, like you can definitely make these queries. Let's just get you like straight database access, and then you can go to town a little bit more. I think we want to try and keep that Periscope one as small as possible because it's going to be running basically 100% of the time.
Makes sense. Cool.
Yeah. I think that's really the main thing. And you should be able to connect if you want to use like Data Grip or another tool. You should just be able to pass in your credentials, and like I use Data Grip quite a bit, and it's a bit nicer for certain things. Trying to think. Yeah, and you can have a bunch of different worksheets as well. So you can see like I have one for sysadmin, and then when I'm like provisioning new people, I just switch over to security admin. But yeah, I guess we can.
No, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
It was useful. Thank you.
All right, I'll stop.